Good morning, finance in San Jose and around the world on Cisco TV. So today we are here to talk about creating a culture of recognition. And we can talk a little bit more about what that means. You know, if you think about how many times have you gone out and done something special for your spouse or maybe your kids or your friends, and you really spent some extra effort on it, and then at the end, off they go on their merry way, and you say, gee whiz, they didn't even say thanks. See if I do that again for them. Well, guess what? We tend to do those same types of things here at work. And it happens to us, and we do it to other people, to both our employees as well as our peers. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And people in general and employees really want to be recognized for a job well done. And guess what? Recognition is one of the primary jobs as us as managers and as leaders. In fact, it's the fun part of what we do. There is nothing that I would rather do as a manager than stand up here and tell you about all the great things that my employees are doing. And guess what? It also inspires high performance. So not only is it a fun thing to do, but the employees really start gravitating to it. Now, guess what? Our employees are telling us that we're not doing enough of it. And that's not a surprise. In fact, I don't know if you can ever do enough of it. And we can talk about all the many reasons why we're doing it. We're stuck in meetings and there's a lot of stuff going on and everyone's wonderful, but really it doesn't matter. These are all excuses. We have in our power to make a difference, and that's why we're here today. So we're fortunate today to have the author of this book, which is 1001 Ways to Recognize and Reward Employees. And I bought 2 copies of this book, so it's kind of a cool book. I lost the first one and I bought it again. With us today is Dr. Bob Nelson. Dr. Bob is a well-renowned guy. He's written this great book. He's a co-founder. He's worked with Ken Blanchard, co-author of The 1 Minute Manager. I think we've all read that as well. He's sold over 3.5 million copies of this book, which is fantastic. He's also written 1001 Ways to Recognize People on the Field book, Keeping Up in a Down Economy, and then he's also got his latest book, Ubuntu, which is an inspiring story of an African principle of teamwork and collaboration. So that sounds pretty intriguing. Dr. Bob's also been on a ton of shows. I've seen him on 60 Minutes as well as CNN, MSNBC, PBS, National Radio, Wall Street Journal. We all read that, Fortune Inc., and so on. Dr. Bob holds an MBA from the Drucker School of Management. He's worked with Dr. Peter Drucker, which is a big deal. We've all heard of him. So please help me in recognizing and bringing forward today Dr. Bob to talk to us about creating a culture of rewards and recognition.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's a wet day here in San Jose, so we're going to have some people drifting in as we get rolling. We've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to dive right in. I actually live in San Diego, and so just a short hop up the coast to get here. I had a funny thing happen on the plane. You know, traveling's a real bear these days, and eventually you get on the plane and pull out a newspaper, maybe a novel you read, and the guy next to me pulled out one of my books. And I thought, what a great chance to be a mystery shopper. I said, excuse me, sir, what do you think of that book? And he got a little reflective because my boss gave me the choice of 3 books to read. This one was the shortest. So one of my claims to fame is I write short books, and I'm proud of that because we're all kind of up against it. We're trying to do more with less and do it faster. And who's got less to do today than last year? Anyone? I want to see how you do that. We're all pushing the curve, and I think it makes sense to every now and then to take a break and reflect on what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. And a topic like this is one of those common sense things that as indicated, a lot of times we don't do. And so this is really a big reminder to do more recognition, and hopefully we're going to give you more tools and ammunition and techniques to specifically make it happen in the course of your day. So it's not something you do when you happen to have time left over, you know, next month, or if you're in a good mood, or it's just something you need to work into your daily behaviors. You look for and act on opportunities to recognize people and try to do it every day. And if you do that collectively, because management is really the front line on this topic, you will be more of a culture of recognition, and your employees will feel more valued and be more productive as a result. We're going to share some of the results on that. But first a quote. Bill Hewlett, co-founder of Hewlett-Packard, once said, "Men and women want to do a good job, a creative job, and if they're provided the proper environment, they will do so." I love this quote because just in one sense it represents where we've come from and where we're at now in management. For the longest time, management was about what? Telling people what to do. My way or the highway. Today, it doesn't work very well to tell people what to do. When people are intelligent, when they've got control over their own discretionary energy, I'm convinced that today you can't force anyone to work harder, to perform at a certain level. It's always going to be their choice. What you can do, as Mr. Hewitt pointed out, is you can set an environment that helps to meet people at their energy, to make it easier for them to do the thing in their best interest and the organization's best interest on a daily basis. And we're going to capture how we can do that. But it's hard to do this in many ways because of the things going on in the economy, the impact of technology, that type of thing. We find that for 40% of today's employees say their job is very or extremely stressful. 25% say it's the #1 stressor in their job today. 60% of employees say they feel pressure to work too much. As a result, 56% of today's employees say they're somewhat or completely dissatisfied with their jobs. 85%, so across the board of employees, say they feel overworked and underappreciated. So I know some of you are probably thinking it's got to be higher than that, right? But it's, across the board, people are up against it, and they are yearning for just people to notice when they've done a good job, when they've gone all out, when they've gone above and beyond. So we're going to find it doesn't take a lot to connect with them at that level. 54% of employees today say they plan to find new jobs as the economy improves. And for top performers, this just came out from Harvard Business Review in the last month, in any organization, 25% of top performers say they're planning to find a new place to work as the economy improves. For younger employees, 75%. Millennials, Gen Y, 75% say, and many of these, the younger kids have not gone through a recession. So they're kind of feeling any place has got to be better than where I am now. And so there's a lot of reason for, again, why we should pay attention to this, this simple topic. Today's employees in general are less loyal. This is from Kelly Global Workforce Index earlier this year. They asked employees that because of the economic recession, are you less loyal to your employer? And if so, why? Here's the top reasons that report as to why people were less loyal. #1, poor management. 58% said that. 52% said low company morale, which tends to be contagious. If people around you are down, then you're more likely to be down. Decreasing company pay. The financial aspect, poor communication, 41% said, and decreased training and development. Now, what I think is interesting is the fact that of this list, only one of them has a financial impact. Only one of them requires money. The main things why people are less loyal, the main things that make a difference in people being excited about their job, doing a good job, is how they're treated, is the environment they're in. So whether it's their managers pays attention to them, is concerned about their needs and interests, whether it's communication, whether it's a sense of knowing where we are and where we're going and feeling a part of those things. Those are the things that add up to make people feel not just valued, but to make them want to do a better job because they feel they're part of the team. Blinding insight. Here's my slide for a blinding insight. Stress and excitement are the same thing. It's a flip sides of the same coin. Think about it, that when we're stressed, we're on edge and emotionally, and when we're excited, it's the same thing. We're on edge, and what differentiates whether you're stressed or excited more than anything, I feel, is a sense of control. As we can take more control of this topic, of the environment, as we can take and give people more control in what they're doing and the say they have in their environment, people are more likely to rise to the occasion instead of being overwhelmed by it. In fact, John Chambers pointed this out when he once said, the most critical thing that I think most business leaders need is to understand is to stay focused on the things that you can control and influence, and then execute. There's a lot of things we can't control, we can't influence. The economy changes, so what the competition's doing. but there's a lot you can impact. And in your sphere of influence, for every manager that's listening, it's what you do in that gives people the wherewithal to want to rise to the occasion, to go above and beyond, and for you, for the company, and for themselves as well. It is within, this is a lot of things you can't control. This is one of those topics you can control. And we need to do more to make that happen. So recognition is acknowledging and appreciating people for their achievements. It's, although most employees want recognition, it's almost universal. From my research, it's 99.4% of employees expect to be recognized. Not just would like to be recognized, but expect it today. So it's changed in recent years. There's a greater expectation that people be called out when they've done a good job, when they've gone above and beyond. Now, what do they actually get, though, is something different. Only 12% of employees say that they feel they get recognized where they work today for doing a good job. 12%, a greater majority, 3 times as many, say that they are not recognized in ways that are meaningful. So the things that are done don't do anything for them. So it's not only important to do more of this, but to refine our knowledge, to be more on the mark, to do the right things that are motivating to your people. So we start to see that the simple common sense topic has nuances and a skill set and a richness that can put you on the journey to be better at it. And those are the types of things we're going to call out. So, but first off, this stuff does make a difference. I always feel compelled to step back from the topic and say there's a business impact for doing recognition well. It's not just to be nice. It's not to have people like you. It's to drive, first and foremost, performance. I worked with Ken Blanchard, who wrote the 1 Minute Manager for 10 years. I remember they had these plaques in the book. One of them was that people that feel good about themselves perform well. I remember driving with Ken one day. He said, "Bob, we got it wrong on that one. It's not people that feel good about themselves perform well. It's people that perform well feel great about themselves." Our job as managers is to help people be performers. And they will love working for you. They will love their job. They will love working for the company because they're making things happen, and they in a very real way. Set people up to perform. And this, more than any other topic, is the best way to do that, to acknowledge when they've done a good job. Recognition, first and foremost, is the biggest driver of performance. My doctoral research, I found this data: 73% of managers report getting, they get the expected results when they recognize others. 78% say they report it helps to improve productivity. 80% say it makes getting the work done easier. 84% say it helps them to increase performance. 90% says it helps to motivate the people that work for them. There's a lot of evidence as to this stuff really does make a difference. Take it a little bit further, that when you're serious about performance of any type, you have to be serious about recognition. Now, I know you're serious about performance. Most companies are. What I'm asking is that you take this soft, fuzzy topic of recognition and you be more serious about making that happen and making the connection directly to performance as much as possible, whether it's your core values, whether it's your strategic objectives, whether it's the team goals or individual KRAs, that you specifically align recognition in specific ways around the different types of performance. This is critical in my presentation here, the importance of the contingency of doing recognition in response to a job well done. And for that reason, I want to tell you a story to help you remember this key concept, because we remember stories better than anything, really. And the story is about these 2 gentlemen who both died the same day. One was a New York City cab driver, the other was a Baptist minister. And they got up to the pearly gates, and St. Peter was there, and he had his laptop. You know, heaven's online these days, and to evaluate their lives. The first gentleman was this cab driver. He was quite impressed. He issued him flowing robes, his own personal cloud, and assisted with the harp, waved him into heaven. And right behind him was his minister. He reviewed his life and issued him a loincloth. And the minister said, "I don't want to seem ungrateful to be here in heaven. I'm delighted to be here, but I've got to ask why you seemingly treated that cab driver so much better than myself when I spent my entire life in the service of the Lord." And St. Peter said, well, we've moved towards a pay-for-performance system here in heaven. And basically, as you preached, people slept. As that cab driver drove, people prayed. So it's happening everywhere, this alignment with performance. It's got to happen on your watch, in your sphere of influence, in specific, sincere ways. If you do this, if you collectively do it, if you become a culture of recognition, where it's not an infrequent random thing, where everyone feels it, it becomes part of your competitive advantage, your ability to attract, keep, and get a better performance from the investment you're making in your employees. Here's other things that I promise you will result from your taking this topic more seriously. Your employees will report that they're 5 times more likely to feel valued. In strong cultures of recognition, this is what the evidence says. 5 times more likely to feel valued. They're going to be 7 times more likely to stay with the company, 6 times more likely to invest in the company, 11 times more likely to feel completely committed to the goals of the organization, to your success and their own. These are some powerful numbers here. What does it mean when an employee is completely committed to their job? Well, Towers-Perrin tells us that committed employees try harder. They use more discretionary energy than uncommitted ones. How much harder? How much more do they work? 57% harder is what they're able to quantify. You will get people more focused, more excited about making things happen if they feel valued for the job they're doing. So increasingly, the soft, fuzzy topic of employee recognition is becoming a business imperative for the impact it has on the financials of the organization. Not just to be a great place to work, but how the financials of satisfied employees drives customer satisfaction, drives bottom line success in a very direct, predictable way. And in fact, an analysis of the Fortune 100 best places to work for in America on the financial returns of investment in those companies over time compared to the S&P 500 shows a 233% higher financial return. Companies that treat their people better, that take this topic seriously, tend to be higher performing companies. There's been a direct correlation between higher employee satisfaction scores and shareholder return, up to 700%. Or Incentive Magazine recently showed a direct correlation between recognition and profitability. That as you use more recognition, the organizations that do, systematically there's a higher alignment with profit of those organizations. And here's the correlation in a very direct correlation. Asking the question, my company recognizes excellence. Where that happens, the companies tend to be higher performing, higher financial return organizations. So it's for these reasons that this simple topic has become a strategic imperative. The impact it has on employees, their performance, the increased impact on employee engagement. And this is why so many companies, and these are a few that I've worked with, that have stepped up to the bar to say, I don't care how good we are, we have to be better at this. We have to be better at this if we want to remain competitive, if we want to be an employer of choice, if we want to get reach and achieve our performance goals. We've got to take this topic seriously. And for that reason, I think that's probably the reason why I'm here today. Your employees report that although Cisco is a great place to work, that they don't feel that they get that recognized. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to up the bar a little bit, to take this topic a little bit more seriously. And that's not going to happen by what HR does differently or just the CEO. It's going to happen with every manager in their sphere of influence and how they connect with employees around performance that matters and do it in meaningful ways to those employees. The principles of recognition are not that, it's not rocket science, it's not that difficult. It's really a common sense notion that recognition rewards equals appreciation. As we spend the bulk of our waking hours at work, there's a greater expectation on the part of employees that have meaning in return. For the younger generation entering the workplace today, they expect that meaning from day one. Not after paying their dues for 5 or 10 years. From the very first day of work, they want to feel that they're making a difference. And the person to give them that feeling, to show them the context of how their job plays into our overall effort, is their immediate manager. It's not the HR department, it's more what you do that will make this topic a reality or not. The most proven principle of management is this notion that you get what you reward. This is the most, of all the, I hate to say how many years in a PhD program studying leadership theories and models of motivation. This is the most proven concept of all those, that what you notice, what you recognize, what you reward, what you incentivize, you will get more of. I guarantee it. It's a fact. So that the best recognition is contingent, as I indicated. It's in response to having done a good job. Our core values, the behavior, team behavior, whatever it may be, achieving the goals, especially in response to that. It's not just to be nice, but in response to what they did. The best recognition is specific, meaningful, and timely. The best recognition increasingly are things that don't have a big cost, much of any cost. It's a delightful irony that those things, and the research on this topic I've done over the last 15 years, there's been a swing towards the things that are most meaningful to people are things that tend to have little, if any, financial cost, are things that are in the reach of any of us. So we need to do more of those to meet employees at their expectations. All behavior is a function of its consequences. To any type of behavior, you got 3 possible consequences. This is basic reinforcement theory. Positive consequences, negative consequences, no consequences. Most employees report that where they work, they don't get any consequences. I've never met an employee that gets up in the morning and says, I think I'll really mess up at work today. I think I'll make my manager's job a living hell. That'll be fun. Now, I haven't met all your employees, but my guess is no one's like that. People want to be magnificent. They want to be part of a winning team. They want to feel that they're making a difference in their job. Yet, most say that they don't get a lot of direction support from their manager. When they do a good job, no one says or does anything. In fact, many employees say the only time they hear from their boss is when they made a mistake. A negative consequence. Ken Blanchard used to call this the most leading style of management in our country today is leave alone zap. We leave people alone, then we let them have it when they make a mistake. That's a violation of our policy. A customer complained about you. And doing that, what that leads to, the behavior that leads to is avoidance. That the only thing that your boss has to say about you is negative, or when you made a mistake, after a while I don't want to see the boss anymore. We start avoiding the person. The most powerful aspect, the most powerful consequence is the positive consequences. That's what drives the behavior that we want more of. This is not my subjective opinion. A lot of studies at Ohio State University, for example, tried to quantify the relative weight of these different approaches towards desired behavior and performance. They found the positive consequences had 4 times the power in driving desired behavior and performance. Kind of a 4-to-1 ratio. So one way of looking at that evidence is that for every time you're in a bad mood and you cut someone off in a meeting, or someone has a suggestion and you dismiss it out of hand and say, we tried that 2 years ago, it'll never work. This last suggestion you get from them, every time you do that, you got to do at least 4 things that are positive with that person, where you did catch them doing something right, where you did systematically show you were on their side, helping them be successful, that we talked about their career and what's next for them, and you helped them to get there. And we've got so much opportunity to make this connection. 4-to-1 ratio is what, in fact, Gallup, in their research, they quantified a 6-to-1 ratio. Stephen Covey talks about a 7-to-1 ratio. And this is where this topic is going. It's more important today than even 5-10 years ago, because of the impact of technology, because we're in a whirlwind where we work, because we're working virtually, and we have less face time with the people we're working with. This topic shows that we've got to make more of every single contact with people because of the context that displays. The manager's role in making this topic happen is you're really the front line in making this happen. That Gallup, as I mentioned, the #1 predictor of employee satisfaction, performance, and tenure on the part of any employee, they found, is the relationship they have with their immediate supervisor. It's not what's happening at corporate. It's not what's happening with in HR. It's my immediate manager is the most important person for any employee in their job. And did that person, he or she, did they notice? Did they help me out? Did they give me the information I need? Did they thank me when I did a good job? That's what makes or break this topic. This is from longitudinal research with over 2 million employees. This So this is not a random observation on Gallows Park. This says if these things are important to you, performance, tenure, you have to do this topic to get that result. It's undeniable that in my doctoral research on the topic of recognition, had a very simple question. Because we know this stuff works. I wasn't trying to prove that. I was trying to ask a simple question. Why is it some managers use this topic, do recognition, even if they don't have tools or programs or a budget, and other managers, you give them all those things, and they still don't make it happen in their behaviors? I spent 3 years answering that very simple question. Why don't people use recognition? Because we know the value's there. And it was interesting what I learned from that. I looked at 47 national organizations, and each one I found managers that were good at recognition. In the same environment, I found ones that did not use recognition. It took me a year to set up the study, and I had these two groups of users and non-users, and I looked at 140 variables to see what distinguished these two groups of people. And I pulled from, any good research pulls from what comes before you. I pulled from expectancy theory and social learning theory and personality theory. And I had my own field work, my own guessing. And I remember Dr. Drucker, one of his pieces of advice, he says, when you're doing research, go out in the field and find out how things really work. And then use your research to prove what you learned. And so it was helpful to get me to focus on what was really going on and what was really relevant for managers today. And what I learned, and I'll give you the 2-minute summary of a 3-year study, is that for those managers that used recognition, to a person they had internalized the importance of this topic, that they truly felt it was their job to make this happen, not someone else's responsibility, their job on their watch and their sphere of influence, to the point where it impacted their behavior, that they looked for and then acted on opportunities to recognize employees when they did good work, contingent, and they tried to do so on a daily basis. If you do that, if you each do that, you will faster, more strongly be a culture of recognition that can get the benefits that are there for you. If it happens randomly, you're going to get random results. If just the managers that use it, they're going to get better results. So really the choice is yours, is to get it on this bandwagon and take it seriously. That's why managers that do it, that's how they make it happen. They prioritize the importance of this. For managers that don't use it, it's a different list, a different type of list. The number one reason why managers don't use recognition is they don't understand how to do it well. It's kind of a blind spot to them. And I hate to say it, but this is, I find more often in technical companies where there's a little bit more ease and comfort with the technology and the software. My wife's a computer scientist, and you see a lot of that where there's more comfort with solving the problem more than dealing with the person. You've got to make this more comfortable. You've got to stretch your comfort zone as you try things and connect with people so that it becomes, again, part of your behavior. This is the number one reason why managers don't do more of this in their job today. Other top reasons is they don't think it's important. 2/3 of the reasons why that hold managers back from doing this topic relate to their beliefs around the topic. I shouldn't have to do it. No one does it for me. I'm not going to coddle people. We got a job to do. Let me know who's not motivated. I'll have a little talk with them. There's a lot of things that hold us back on this topic, and we got to get rid of those excuses, as they were called earlier, and say this topic's too important to not happen. In fact, time, for example, that they feel they don't have time to do recognition, and who does have time to do the things that we don't think are important to begin with? You got to change the importance of this topic before you're going to find the time to make it happen. It's a catch-22 there. What I found that was interesting on this topic in my research is that managers that didn't do it said, I don't have time, but managers that did use recognition, they cited time as a main reason why they did, because few things have as much power as this topic that you can do in a short amount of time. In the hallway, at the beginning of a staff meeting, online, sending someone a thank you, giving them a gift card or some points, having a connection doesn't take a lot of time. To jot a note, we're talking about seconds. To say thank you, we're talking about seconds. The impact of this is not that hard. So don't save it up for the end of the quarter or once a year around the holidays when you tell people, or when you give them their review. That's not enough today. People expect and need to get this along the way as they're making things happen as they're making results, as they're having successes. Not having the time is again, an excuse that we have to override. They're afraid they might leave someone out there. They feel employees don't value it, and we know that's not true. They feel the organization doesn't support it. Or as I said, sometimes they feel that they don't get recognized, so when they start getting it, they'll start recognizing others. And the list goes on and on. There's lots of reasons why managers don't use recognition. There's one important reason why you got to give it a try. It really does work to gain a higher level of performance, commitment, motivation on the part of your staff. And it feels good to do it as well. I find that managers that use recognition, they come to like it. So if it's awkward that you don't do it that much, you got to stretch yourself, but you're going to find it feels good to do it, and inevitably you'll get more recognition back. I find in my doctoral work, I asked managers, when you get recognized, for those that do it, what keeps you doing this? And the number one source came from their own employees, that they were thanked and valued by their employees who appreciated it. So it wasn't their manager, it was the people that were getting the recognition that made it a self-fulfilling cycle, if you will. So what does this topic look like in challenging times that we're in today, in the Great Recession? And I know Cisco has weathered the storm well. I know you had a great quarter. I know the next one looks to be a bit challenging, but overall, compared to most companies, you're doing very well. What does this mean? How can you do more of this topic to make this part of what it means to work for Cisco? Is this valuation of my worth and the performance and the things I've done. Let me give you some thoughts specifically on that. I can give you 6 different levels of recognition for challenging times. Now, the book I wrote, 1,001 Ways to Reward Employees, actually has about 2,500 examples of positive consequences in 27 categories. So I'm just picking out a few categories, and I think most of you are going to have a chance to get that book. By the way, but I just want to pick out 6 levels, and I'm going to start at a low-cost level and go lower, because it's overwhelming, the things that we could do that don't require much of any budget. So a nominal reward, and by that I mean something like a Starbucks gift card, an e-coupon, that is a simple thank you to, here's an e-card for 5 cups of coffee it's got to be $40 now, I don't know, but and a simple thank you in response, and it may be with a note, very simple, or you take a point system. There's some wonderful programs now. In fact, I Love Rewards. They do it better than anyone I've seen, where they show you how to connect with employees through online means with using points and a peer-to-peer based communication, peer-to-peer based recognition, including social recognition where it ties into Facebook and LinkedIn. It's incredible. Or so simply a strategy to meet people more systematically, or something like at Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida, they give all their supervisors tokens. I got one right here. It says, Anheuser-Busch, making friends is our business. And they give all their supervisors these tokens, and they say, hey, when you see an employee, and even someone that you haven't met, someone that doesn't work for you, that's doing one of our core values, which for them could be safety or service or teamwork, give them one of these tokens, kind of an on-the-spot award, capturing it in the moment, the behavior they're doing. Give them one of these, and the way this program works is the employee that gets this can turn it into payroll, get an extra $10 in their next paycheck. They said in the same breath, Bob, nobody turns them in. This means more to the employee than cash. Cash comes and goes. There's no residual. You get a little bit more money. You pay a bill, and then a day or two later you forgot you even got it. But if you get a memento, you capture a moment in time. You capture a behavior from someone above you in the organization. It has a lot more power, and it becomes a multiplier. As you take that token, you show your kids, look what Dad got. You're out to lunch and you pull out change, and hey, you got one of those tokens. Yeah, what'd you do to get that? Oh, I had an idea. I thought I could save some money for us. My boss agreed, gave me a token. Wow, I've got an idea. You get a multiplier effect happening. So it's easy to, this topic is very contagious, and it's easy to make it happen and have it be sticky, where people are doing more of it, and you build a momentum, a rhythm, we like to call it. So whether it's nominal rewards or symbolic items, here's a banana, for example. I was working at Hewlett Packard. I heard this story. I loved it. That a senior software engineer was working on a tough technical problem. One day he burst into his manager's office. He said, "You won't believe I found the software bug." His manager, knowing the importance of a timely recognition, wanted to do something right away, not at the end of the month or end of the quarter, heaven forbid end of the year. That's called ancient history in any fast-moving, dynamic work environment. You got to capture the moment now. He literally groped around his desk, hands this senior software engineer a banana from his lunch. I'm not sure how you feel if your boss gave you a banana. It might seem kind of silly, but this guy had some fun with it. Showed everyone the banana the boss gave him and why. It took on a life, a story of its own. Today in that division, Sunnyvale, California, just down the street here, 14 years later, the most prestigious award for technical achievement in that division is the Golden Banana Award. Not the same banana. They retired that puppy. They created a plaque. And the point is, anything can be recognition. Find out what's important from your people and make more of that happen. Or give them permission to do more of it on a peer-to-peer basis. So we have this topic happening greater and more extensively on a daily basis. Here's a spark plug. Again, some of the best ideas are just the simple, almost silly ones. This woman told me, said, my boss, he took a spark plug, he spray painted it with gold paint, he put it on a piece of yarn, handed it to me in front of the staff. He said, "You add a spark around here." She goes, "It's been in my jewelry box for 16 years. I love working for this guy. I love working in this company because they value what I do." They don't say, "Oh, we pay you to do that. You know, that's your job to do that." They value me for what I do, even the things I was hired to do that I'm paid for. Or you take the Wingspread Award at the Office of Personnel Management in Washington, D.C. This is they gave this out based on a clear criteria for performance. And when you do formal recognition, you want to make sure you have a clear criteria that looks objective, so it doesn't look like favoritism. And I love this example because a woman got this trophy, and the next day she went to her boss and said, "No, I appreciate getting the Wingspread Award. At the same time, I feel a little bit guilty because so many people have helped me achieve what I have in my job." And she said, "If it's okay with you, I'd like to pass this trophy on to someone that's been helpful to me." Her boss said, "It's your trophy, you can do whatever you want with it." And so she did, thereby starting what's known as a pass-around award. Simple concept. Why it's being passed around, you can decide. Is that for technical excellence? Is it for customer service? Is it for innovation? If you pick the behavior that if you do a little bit more in your area, you're going to have a better result, and find a way to highlight. It doesn't matter what you do. You can go get a bowling trophy from a pawn shop. At TRW down in San Diego, my way, they go to a flea market once a year. They buy a piece of junk, and they pass it around and let people decorate it, kind of like put their name on it like the Stanley Cup. At the end of the year, they throw it out. They get something else, they start over. It doesn't matter so much what you do as it does that you do something. And if getting more of the behavior, you can get it by having a pass-around trophy that becomes a conversation piece sitting on someone's desk. Go get a box of them. Okay? Open the floodgates. Let this happen. Celebration perks. Again, taking time to celebrate successes. So whether it's a pizza party around performance, an ice cream social, Dow Chemical, they do a lot of that. Or whether it's bringing in donuts. Now again, any of these, don't do it just to do it. Take the donut thing. Tomorrow's Friday. You can be the great manager. You bring in donuts to the work group, and next Friday it's a beautiful day out. You bring in donuts again. What's going to happen the Friday after that? Hey, where's the donuts? It's Donut Friday, after all. In fact, now it's not good enough we got donuts. Can we get some with the little sprinklies on them, and you're taking orders for bear claws and fruit fillings? And don't do it like that, because that's slipping on the entitlement slope. If you do it just to be nice, if you do it, then the expectation becomes you got to do more stuff just to be nice, and there's no correlation or connection with the performance that people are doing. So it's okay to have donuts, provided no one's on a low-carb diet, but do it for a purpose, for a reason. We had personal bests as a department for customer satisfaction scores. We had our number of employee suggestions for cost-saving ideas is up. So we hit our goal for the month. So we're bringing in donuts. Do it with a purpose. So then the celebration gives you a legitimacy to reinforce that behavior and gives you a chance in the celebration to talk about the context of why we're doing this. And the value, once again, of how the effort of our employees has made a difference in the goals and mission of the organization. Time off can be a powerful form of rewards. Here in Boston, this company started Winter Fridays. If someone was a high performer, they finished a project or they satisfied a customer, they were allowed to leave early on Friday at 3 p.m. Now, if you have if you're depending on your culture, and if the working hours are pretty flexible at Cisco, that may not be the end all. Maybe it's having a jeans day. Maybe that you got to find what works for you. I'll give you a different one in Los Angeles. Beginning of this year, this communications company, they gave out 2 "I don't want to get out of bed" day cards. So kind of bonus cards to their employee time off. They said we know people are working hard. We know you're up against a lot. This year, there's going to be a time when you don't want to come to work because you're stressed and we're hitting it hard. We want you to call in, not sick, but call in well. And say, I'm going to take my Ferris Bueller day off. I'm going to the beach, or I'm going to my kid's school, because you know better than anyone when you need a break. And we'd rather you do that than to be frustrated at work or to, heaven forbid, quit. We want to give you an outlet for that. So these are real things that people are doing today to make that connection, to be there for employees when they need it, whether it's some more time off to do other things in their life. Involvement and support is a powerful motivator. Again, doesn't cost any money. 92% of employees say they want to be asked for their opinions and ideas. Asking someone for their opinion is a motivator. When's the last time you did it? How can you make that part of your daily interactions with people? Instead of telling them what to do, asking them, how can I be helpful? What do you think we should do about this problem? Involving them in decisions. 89% of employees say that they want to be involved in decisions, especially those that impact them. Ask them, involve them, ask for them. Even if you say, I've got to make the final decision, you can give the parameters. I know it'll be a better decision if I have your input. For educated, high-skilled workers, this is a powerful form of recognition to allow them to not just be involved in decision-making, but to be involved on the project that excites them, to take on the responsibility that excites them. Powerful forms of recognition. 94% of employees say they want their manager to support them when they make a mistake. Now that, again, sounds like one of those common sense things, but what happens for most employees when they make a mistake, they get berated, they get embarrassed in front of their peers, and in fact, Bill Gates once said, you can tell a lot about the long-term viability of any organization simply by looking at how they handle mistakes. Wow. Because if you embarrass them, they won't make that mistake again. But what you lose in terms of their self-esteem, their willingness to use their best judgment, to take that risk with the next client or the next problem, you may never get back again. You've got to show that you're on their side, that you're supporting them, and turn the mistake into a learning process. I may not have done it the same way, but what did you learn from that? Because that's something that we can all benefit from. This brings that up at the next staff meeting, because we can all learn from that mistake you made, and find a silver lining about it. That's a very different form of support that you can show an employee. And finally, praise and thanks. People ask me if there's just one thing I did differently on this topic of all the thousands of things and thousands of companies I've worked with, what would it be? And hands down, it would be just notice them. Just thank them when they do a good job. You can do that in person. You can do that in a written note or online email. You can electronically. You can do it in public, in the staff meeting, or in the community newspaper, or on the company website, whatever vehicles you have to make this connection. But just notice and thank people when they do a good job is the simplest and the most powerful. I've tracked 50 explicit behaviors over the last 15 years on this topic as to what's most important to employees, factored them into 13 categories. 4 of the 13 categories are right here. In fact, when this initially popped up, I had to ask, well, isn't this all the same? Isn't praise, whether it's in person or in a note? And I've learned that, no, it's not all the same. It means something different when someone's praised to their face versus they get an online recognition, maybe with some points or a formal letter to their personnel file. Okay, or an email that's copied to their boss, or words said in front of the staff, or just in front of one person. It means different. It has a different resilience. So you got to fire on each of these cylinders to make this connection with employees. It's not that hard. We had for the people here, we have wallet cards I passed out. We've got some. We'll get to those virtually. The key to great praising, I call it ASAPQ, for as soon as sincere, as specific, as personal, as positive, and proactive as possible. Sounds like a lot. You can do this in 10 seconds. So timing is important. The sooner that performance happened, they finished the project, they suggested an idea, the sooner you recognize it, the more likely that behavior is going to be repeated. Fact. As other people see that you do it, you're sending a message to everyone else. So it's not just for the performer, but it's for everyone else that heard or saw that you called them out in a positive way. You're sending the message of, this is what gets noticed around here. And that has an impact. So I'm asking them, imploring that when the thought crosses your mind that someone did a good job, I'm asking you to act on that thought. Not just say, oh yeah, Gary's one of my best people, he did it again. But to break set, to stop, to pick up the phone, to send an email, to maybe get up from your desk, and if they're in the vicinity, to go find the person. And when you do that, and maybe they're in a meeting, maybe, just maybe, you'll interrupt them. Have you ever interrupted someone around good news? You got to try it. It's powerful. So, Gary, I know you're in the middle of something. Something just came up. Ooh, that doesn't feel good. Something came up, because that's usually bad news, right? Not this time. We just finalized last quarter numbers. You and your team completely blew past the goals. There's no way this could have happened without the dedication and focus you brought to the management of your group. We're going to talk about this more later. In fact, I got some ideas for celebration I want to discuss with you. But I had to come find you right away, tell you how excited I was for your success, how proud I am that you're on my team. And shut the door. How long did that take? 10 seconds, 12 seconds? You're packing a big punch in a little package. Turns out that Gary's meeting with a vendor from outside the company. He goes, who was that? That's my boss. Really? You guys always doing stuff like that around here? Yes, we are. Really? Do you have any openings? Because that's the manager everyone wants to work for, the one that's not so busy or important or removed that they can't close the gap and come full cycle when a job that was done that we said was important to begin with. So it's got to come from the heart, and it's got to be personal where possible, 100% positive. Don't have a takeaway. You did a great job, but you could do better. You want to be proactive. If you wait to be reactive on this, you'll end up focusing on mistakes. You have to lead the charge, be proactive. I find that even for myself, I've got to be proactive. I wrote the book to basically say, I saw what you did, I appreciate it, here's why it's important, that larger context, here's how it makes me feel. Any good praising, even if it's only 10 seconds, provide a practical feedback, provides an emotional charge. You can't get a better return on an investment of 10 seconds of your time than to make that happen. You can do this directly to people. You can do it in front of someone like I modeled. You can do it about someone who isn't even there, knowing that word will get back to them. Your boss is bragging about you at the management team meeting. Really? For a lot of employees, that's what they believe is the most important, most powerful. Because if you say to their face, I did a good job, can you work late tonight? It's kind of a quid pro quo, but if you actually believe that they did a good job, you're sharing it with other people, and word gets back to them, then they really feel that you must believe that's important. So with that, and we're about out of time here, I want you to just give food for thought on the things we've talked about and or I've shared, and think about what of this can you specifically do differently. And not just what that might be, whether it's writing a note or doing more email praise or finding out what's important to your staff or having the discussion. I just did this in the company yesterday where we had the staff go around and everyone share 2 things that motivate them. To get to know each other better about what's important to them, because what motivates people varies widely. As you have that information, as everyone has that information, they can more likely use it in a timely, specific way. And to ask yourself, when will you do that? Who will you involve? How will you keep your commitments to your commitments on this topic? And with that, I don't know if we have any time left for questions. Diego, how are we set on that?
Yeah, I have 5 minutes for questions. And
okay, let's take a couple questions. And I brought actually, we can get those online for anyone that's listening in as well. And I brought a couple books to reinforce the questions you have. And yes, sir.
My wife works for a company where they have this concept of balanced feedback. Whenever you give some positive message, you're also supposed to give some constructive message as well. What's your view on that?
No, I'd say this topic happens so infrequently, and it's such a great need to people today in our fast-moving, high-tech. John Nesbitt, in his book Megatrends, 25 years ago predicted the more high-tech we become, the more high touch we need to assimilate that technology. People are yearning for this. So my take on that would be save the criticism, save the feedback. Doesn't mean it's okay to have whatever it is, typos or whatever it is. That feedback's still important, but let's save it for another time and have a development discussion. Right now, capture what they did well, so they'll do those things again. It would be my strategy. Otherwise, it ends up being a takeaway. You say, you did this, yes, but, and yes, but becomes a verbal eraser as to what came before, and people don't believe you really believe what you said. So you get a copy of the book there. So if you got anyone else, any questions from online, and we'll send you a copy.
Yeah, we have a few questions online. The first one, is it better to recognize in a public setting, in front of peers, or one-on-one?
Well, they're both important, so it doesn't have to be either or. As a general rule of thumb, public praise more people value, but there's about 20–30%, and especially more so with high tech. There's more introverts. I'm more of an analytical personality. That the one-on-one is more meaningful. So the real answer is to find out with your people what they most value. So the next time you get them together, put this topic on the agenda. Say, we heard this guy talk, and it got me thinking: are we doing enough recognition? Company scores say that we're not. What can we do more that we're not doing? Who would like to get something going? And have that discussion. You're not going to find anyone who's going to say, boss, I just had it up to here with you telling me how good I am. Knock that off. Because for most of us, the reward that employees feel that they get for doing a good job, finishing a project, is now they get 2 more to work on. And the reality is that they weren't just thanked and acknowledged for the great job they did do. So they're both important, but the real answer is find out from your people what they value, and then be on the mark and giving them that.
In your experience, what's the world class for service anniversaries? In companies you've seen, who does it best in recognizing service?
Well, I'm not a real big advocate of service awards. The years of service, 5, 10, 15 years, for a couple different reasons. First of all, it's out of sync. The average millennial stays less than a year and a half in their job. Okay, so to have a 5-year award, they're not even going to be around anymore. Whether they stay 10 weeks is going to be a function of how you involve them now and appreciate them and help show them a horizon that goes beyond a year and a half. And so what they can learn here, how you're going to help them succeed and make them promotable when an opportunity arises. So I'm not a big advocate of service awards, because it's not, that's a form of recognizing presence. You're here 5 years, everyone gets it. It's not no differential for a lot. It's really, service awards often end up being an endurance award. Hey, I'm still here, and so if you do that, you got to make sure you're doing other stuff even more so that's based on performance. And if you got that down, then I'd say doing that. I will, to answer your question, who does that well at Kentucky Fried Chicken? They do that's more of an Employee of the Month program, where they have not just a quota of one person, whoever fits the criteria. So here's our 4 core values. Whoever does those things, they all get recognized. It's not just one person, and it might be 20 people, it might be 30 people. And then it's kind of fun how they recognize them. They don't give them a plaque or a certificate. They invite whoever plays a musical instrument to bring it in that day. And they give that motley crew of here's a violin and a tuba and a trumpet, and they give them a list of this month's performers. And they go serenade those people. and it's a hoot, it's fun. And as a result, that gets attention, and the question becomes, how do I get on that list? How do I get that behavior? And drives more of that. At Apple, they've got a kazoo band. You know, the things you can do are just all over the map, and that's a lot of the fun that was alluded to earlier. Other questions?
How do you feel about rewarding an entire team versus an individual, and what if perhaps they've contributed differently?
Yes, again, likewise, it's not either or. So teamwork is critical. It's very important. So if you don't recognize teamwork, you will not get it. So you need to recognize teamwork. But the truth of the matter is that we've all been a part of a team where the reason the job got done was because two people, burned the midnight oil and they made it happen. And if you just recognize the team, then you're really slighting those people that did most of the work, and other people got a free ride. So that's not the best either. So you want to recognize the team effort for when they've done things, but then it's okay to call out specific individuals within that. In fact, Diego, I've got an article that I wrote specifically on that I'll provide that you can post for people to see that probably answers it in more detail. Great questions. And yes, go ahead, please.
So when you talked about the low use, what do you see moves them from low use to high use? Like if they just don't understand or they don't think it's important, what changes that?
What changes that? Well, stuff like this helps a lot. To really, what we're trying to get to everyone is really kind of head, hands, and heart. We want to change your conceptual model of managing. And for a lot of managers, this wasn't part of the equation. I was hired to do this job, and they're focused on their own work, and they're a working manager. So they got their own things to do in their projects and tasks, and the people become down on the list. If you're a manager, first and foremost, you're a manager of people. You've got people have got to be on top of the list, and in a systematic way. Not at my I won't tell you what company my wife worked for, but again, she's a computer scientist. She'd come home. She said, my boss. We had a team meeting today, and my boss didn't come. He said, "Oh, you guys go ahead without me." It's more important the work he was doing, and it's like, your boss didn't show up for the team meetings. It's not a team anymore. You're not leading anybody. It's everyone being their own cubicles, and you're not going to get the results. And if we pull together in a systematic way, so I think. Raising the awareness on the job, raising awareness on the examples, the tools of what it looks like, that's the hands part of it, so head, hands, and heart, showing you that this is powerful. No one can have the impact that you can have in your sphere of influence. It can't happen from HR, from the CEO, or the benefits of the company. This is a very personal thing. So you gotta make the connection in your sphere of influence. And there's no substitute for making that happen. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Diego.
So first of all, thank you very much for Dr. Nelson being here today. Thank you everybody who has attended in person in the room as well, whoever is in the Cisco TV. We're going to post this as a VOD, so if you like it, you thought it was interesting and meaningful for you, please spread the voice about it. Encourage your indirect managers to also work to review the VOD and take learnings out of this. I think there is a lot of good conclusions out of this one. I'm going to have a call for action for all of you. And following the action plan that Dr. Nelson was asking, we want to hear from you about best practices. So if you can share with us, we have an email alias that we're going to distribute later today. But if you want to come back to us and share any best practices that you have had in the past in your team, in previous organizations, or any practical action you're going to put in place in the next 2-3 weeks after listening to the presentation, reading the book, etc. We're going to get one free book for each of you. Whoever submits those best practices will come back to you, send you. They have to earn the book. It's performance related. We want to compile and consolidate all those best practices and have maybe another session with you, maybe in a couple of months, where we can share those back to you. We'll pick some of them also to be published in the finance newsletter, and we're going to also use some of those as well to keep working in future programs managed by the rewards and recognitions together with all of you. So with that, I would like to encourage to fill out the evaluation forms that you will get in the Cisco TV as well, that you have here in the chairs, put them there in the exit. And I think right on time, hopefully, for going to the managers meeting now with John and Frank. Thank you very much.